Good to go.
Well, good afternoon, Tom Ginn, G-Force. G is for gratitude. I believe gratitude is one of the most powerful principles we can incorporate in our life. It changes our perspective no matter what's going on in our life. There's always something good that we can reflect on to take us to the next level, to move forward in our day and in our lives. I created this program nearly 3 years ago, and it was motivated by my teachers from Bob Proctor and the Proctor Gallagher Institute, being a consultant with them. And gratitude's been one of the most important elements of my personal development, and I just want to share that. Today, I'm really excited to introduce my guest today, Doug Dane. I met Doug when I was in training with the Proctor Gallagher Institute up in Toronto. He was co-facilitating with Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher. I've met Doug there. He's been a great influence. He was also part of the training as the consultants, getting us to move forward, be able to take this valuable information that he's incorporated in his life so that we can share what Bob taught us so we can make a difference in the world. So I'm so grateful today to have Doug on. Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you. What are you grateful for today, Doug?
You know, geez, it's a long list. I guess first thing comes to mind, being on these calls, I'm just grateful that I get the opportunity to try to get even if it's one person to see that they may be mistaken about themselves and what they're capable of and how good life can be for them. And I'm just grateful that I have the ability to control my own thinking and direct my own mind to improve my life or improve the lives of other people that I try to help.
Wonderful. Thank you. Today, what we're going to do is I always like the process of tell a little bit about where you live, your background, and where you are today with regards to your business, your book, and we're going to be talking about Doug's book here today, Mistaken Identity. It's a very powerful book. It resonates with me. He's got his copy right up there. I'm just going to put his website out so that you can get information about Doug and his book on his website right here, Mistaken Identity. DougDane.com at Mistaken Identity. So a little bit of stuttering there, but we'll get through this. With that all said, Doug, it's all yours, my friend. Share a little bit about yourself, your story, because the book is in and around your story, which you went through as a young person in life and how you got through that.
Yeah,
it's an inspirational story in itself.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm here in just outside Toronto, Canada, born and raised in this area, and I divide my time between now here in New York City, and just go back and forth. And I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I've been in this business for, I guess it was 2014. 2013, I was struggling with some stuff, and I remember talking to a friend, and we were having coffee, and she handed me this DVD. She said, why don't you watch this? It was a Friday morning, beautiful sunny day. Take this home and watch. I think it'll help you. I don't remember what that DVD was. I never watched it. For some reason, I turned on Netflix. I don't know why. It was like 10:30 on a Friday morning. Something compelled me to turn it on, and I watched The Secret, based on the book. And of course, anybody that knows the movie or knows Bob Proctor, Bob was a star in that movie. And Bob comes on the screen. They call him the man in the tan suit with the white hair, and he's barking on the screen. You can do better. And that voice, that booming voice of his. Then I had this flashback to 1989. I went to a weekend seminar of his. I completely forgot about it, really. In 1989, it was a weekend thing called You Were Born Rich. And I had just gotten into a new business. I had a previous business, two businesses. I started, my dad had passed, left a little bit of money, and I was working at a factory at the time. I just wanted to get the hell out of the factory. So I quit this factory job, started a business, blew my inheritance, went bankrupt, got in trouble with a guy who was a really bad character. He was a business partner. I didn't know he was a bad guy until it was too late. And so, busted financially. And then I racked up another 40 grand in debt. And I got into this new business. It was in the financial services industry. And a guy came into our office to sell a ticket to this seminar called You Were Born Rich with this guy named Bob Proctor. I didn't know who this guy was, but I certainly needed some money. And I went to that seminar, and I figured out why I couldn't earn money. I was reading, Think and Grow Rich. Somebody had given me that book when I started a business. There's a secret in the book. I couldn't figure out the secret. I was failing. But I went to that seminar and I learned why I couldn't earn money, because I came from a very poor family. Now, I'm kind of jumping around chronologically, but in 2001, my second marriage had failed. I wrecked it, like I wrecked all my relationships. And I went to counseling, and the counselor started asking some family history questions. And I couldn't really answer many questions. I didn't really have a whole real clear recollection of my childhood or my family history. And she suggested something to me that I rejected. It didn't make any sense to me. She goes, I think there's abuse in your background. There's no abuse in my background. I mean, my parents, I remember they were drinkers and stuff. I remember stuff about that, but no. She's, well, if you want your future to be better, you might want to piece your past together. And so I went on this investigation, and I hired a private investigator. I met teachers, neighbors. I got my adoption records. I was adopted as a little baby. I got records from social services. I interviewed police officers. I got all this information, and I pieced together a story. I blocked out all my life, because all my life I was always struggling. It just always felt like there was something wrong with me. And even when I got into business and then met Bob Proctor, and I started to earn money and started to succeed, financially, I was doing well. There was just this lingering feeling of there was all kinds of stuff, just all this junk. I was dealing with anxiety and depression and what's wrong with me, shame, guilt, making all these mistakes, of course, too. And I was a pretty bright guy. I did pretty well in business, but I was doing some dumb things. And I just didn't get it. Well, when I put the whole story together, it was all blocked out. When I had the whole story in my hands, I go, no wonder I have been feeling the way I've been feeling, doing what I've been doing. And so I went public with it. And my counselor, what do you need to do you think, Doug? I said, well, I think the truth will make me free. And so I said, I'm going to write my life story. And so I wrote it. It was on in a national newspaper here in Canada. And then that led to an appearance on national television, and then a TV show. And then people said, will you come speak? So I started a speaking career while I was still in the mortgage industry I was in. And people kept coming to me because my story, like it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. I was in an abuse situation with a ring of pedophiles for 2 years. At 15, I got kidnapped, returned home, police arrive. This whole story, comes out in the public. I go to court, all this stuff, turn to drugs and alcohol. And then, as I mentioned, in the 80s, late 80s, I get into business and fail. And so, people started coming and go, how did you, like, Tom, you might contact me and go, Doug, like, how did you go from that to being able to succeed? And then with the story, we go public. Plus, because I went public, I let it all go. Like all the negative association of the story, literally it was like the shame and guilt, it just fell away. It was remarkable. And you would come to me, and I just had this heart to want to try to help you, because I suffered at that point, I was 40 now. I had suffered and struggled for so long. I just wanted to help you, but I couldn't. I could tell you what I did, but I couldn't tell you how to do it where it was duplicatable. And so I just then went on a pursuit to try to figure out, okay, how can I help people because when I was speaking, was doing research and looking at data and statistics, and even today, it hasn't really changed. 60%, at least this is a stat from the CDC in the US, but the stats are fairly much consistent globally, that 60% of adults have suffered some form or more, one or more adverse childhood experiences, which is emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, witnessing violence, mistreatment, and neglect. That's sort of the definition. Well, I went through all that. My parents were brutal, violent alcoholics. I saw a lot of violence. They beat each other up. They beat us kids, and so I wanted to help all these people. But I could talk to you, but like all talk therapy, if you will, it doesn't really make a change. It just kind of makes you feel better temporarily. So anyway, I started pursuing the answer to how I made it work. But what was interesting in those 8 years, that's when I met Bob Proctor. So 2013, I'm watching the movie The Secret. Bob's on the screen. I go to his website. I download the book Born Rich from that weekend seminar. And then I got an email list, just like you did, Tom. And I get invited to a call to get into a coaching program with Bob Proctor. I enrolled in that. And then that started to explain a lot, gain more understanding and clarity. And I decided I just wanted to, that was changing me dramatically. Again, more so than what I knew could. And then I became a coach and a consultant with him, just like you did. And I started teaching the information he had taught me that was helping me. And then I made a decision. I wanted to work with Bob, not just work under his organization. And so I just set a goal. I'm going to be the top guy in the world with the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I'm going to be working side by side with Bob Proctor. That was what I wrote on my goal card. And within 4 months, he called me and offered me this position, what was called the International Sales Director. And that's where you and I met, Tom, where I was running the coaching division globally. And I spent 8 years doing that until he passed about 1.5 years ago. And so, I didn't know about what I didn't know at the point of meeting him in 2014 is I didn't really understand that my mind is a machine. I'm not a machine, but my mind is a machine, and I'm the operator. I didn't know that. I didn't know that my mind directed my brain and nervous system. And so when I discovered that, I realized I could take control of how I was thinking and how I was feeling. Because I'm still suffering with a bit of anxiety and, just nervousness and, a lot of stress, physical stuff. And so I just got excited. I go, okay, so I can heal myself, so to speak. And so I just started studying how my mind directs my brain and nerves. And I just started taking control of my thinking and directing it. And the other thing I did not know is that our self-image or our opinion of ourselves, that's the program that runs my mind. It's like the thermostat, And so then I sort of started to dive in a lot of really understanding self-image. And then about 7 years ago, I wrote these words, mistaken identity, on a piece of paper in my journal. I had no intention to write a book. But I kept saying, I think people have this mistaken identity. I think they're mistaken about themselves. I think they have a mistaken view. I think they have a mistaken opinion. I think their beliefs and if they went through what I went through, it's distorted, And so I coined this phrase. I said, I think most people are stuck in an emotional prison of their own making. And I think they got arrested because it's a case of mistaken identity. The real villain is their upbringing and their conditioning or how they were treated as a kid. And the key to breaking out of this cell, this jail, lies inside. If they could just understand what is their mistaken identity, how did they get it, and how do they change it? And so then I kept playing with this. And, for the last 8 years, I talked to thousands of people, literally thousands, because I just spend my days having conversations with people. And pretty much everybody I talked to, no matter how successful they were doing, they were mistaken about their capability. They were mistaken about, not liking themselves or not feeling good enough or not believing in themselves. And anyway, I wrote the book very fast. I mean, people ask how long did it take you to write the book? And I said, well, about 8 years, because I was just assembling this process in my mind that I was using to fix my own mistaken identity. And my mistaken identity held me back from actually speaking about this or writing about it. I could talk to you one-on-one like this, Tom. But for me to go on a stage or in front of other people, I wasn't sure I was right. I felt I was right, but I wasn't sure I was right. And then I got to a point, I knew what I was talking about. I don't have any degrees. I barely made it to grade 10, but I have a strong degree of experience, and that made me an authority, a cognitive authority. And so then I just made my mind, all right, I can't get to enough people talking one-on-one. I'm going to have to put this together somehow. And so I'm going to write a book. And when I sat down to write the book late last year, it was pretty quick. It didn't take me long to write it all. In fact, the first manuscript, the publisher said, "Did you write this?" I go, "Yeah." "And did you have it edited?" I go, "Nope." And so I nailed it right away. And it's not a book. It's not a book that you read. It's more of well, somebody said this is like a personal development process to change your self-image over the course of 30 days. So each chapter is like 5 minutes long. And it has a bit of my story. It has a key principle. And then I get you to take an action step. And I take you on a journey over 30 days. And that was the idea. I wanted to, if you came to me, a year ago, 2 years ago, how do I do this, Doug? Well, I couldn't really tell you. So this is how you do it. That's why I wanted to write the book. So if you don't mind, I just want to compliment you. There's me being in the same business as you've been, the personal development through Bob Proctor. And I'm so grateful that I ran across Bob, not to get into personal development industry, but because I had a financial services coach. I kept seeing the behavior side coming up. Because I remember Dave Ramsey said 20% of winning with money is knowledge, 80% behavior. And I kept seeing my clients falling back into this behavior trap, and I didn't know how to deal with it. That's led me to Bob Proctor. And just want to let you know that how you put this book together, there's so many books out there in personal development that give you a good overview. I encourage everybody not to discount any of those books whatsoever, because you can come away with a nugget that can change your life in a significant way. But when I started diving into this book, I haven't gone all the way through it yet, but I'm in chapter 4. How you've laid it out, Doug, it's absolutely amazing how you put this together with those take the action required to really look at yourself. It's hard looking at ourselves. Would you agree? Being honest with ourselves. That's my take on it. It's really hard to really be honest with yourself and say, and take responsibility for that, who I am and why I do what I do. Well, yeah, you know what? I do want to say something about that. We do perceive it as hard for sure. And when you do this work, it doesn't have to be complicated. When you do it, it feels hard, and we don't like anything that doesn't feel good, and so we have a perception that personal growth is painful and hard. And I thought that too. I thought it was hard. I thought it was complicated. I thought it would take a long time, and it did, because that's what I thought. And Bob just kept going, "Doug, it's so simple. You're making it so complicated." He just kept, one of the chapters in the book, I talk about Bob, the book's in part is dedicated to him. So he had a huge influence, but he said, "Doug, just let it go." I go, "Bob, it's not that simple." "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you didn't go through what I went through. It's different." He goes, "Oh, okay, Doug, whatever you say." He just kept drilling that in my head that it's simple. It's not complicated. You're making it. Just let it go, Doug. Just let it go. And he was right. I was going to prove that he was wrong. And I set out to prove that he was wrong, but he was right and I was wrong. And so we have to change our perspective on this. We've just been taught to approach our problems a certain way, and we generally approach them the hard way when it doesn't actually have to be that hard. Now, it took me a long time to figure that out. And Bob said, nothing's going to change, Doug, if and until you accept the idea that I'm proposing to you, that it is simple and it can be fast. And as soon as I did that, and Tom, it wasn't that long ago, it was summer of 2020. I'm sitting in Bob's office, made a long conversation, and that's when it clicked. And then things really started to shift fast. So, but we think it's hard for sure.
Yeah. And that's why I think gratitude is one of those principles that the universe and everything operates by law, and law is non-man-made. And gratitude, I believe, really helps you take away of all the negatives that go on around you right at the moment. It could be anything. Yeah. If you go to a place of gratitude, it changes your perspective, gives you some hope, that leads you to peace, joy, and then the ultimate place to be in life is understanding the law of love and how that operates within our lives. Yeah. So that's, that all came about through the work through Bob and other people that were influencers in my life at that with these principles. And gratitude is the one that stuck with me. I learned a lot more from my clients than I would give them value. I just want to let people know that. One of my clients turned me on to a book by Robert A. Emmons, Gratitude Works. Are you familiar with him, Doug?
Well, I'm not. No.
Yeah, I encourage you to look. It's a similar type of book, taking gratitude principles, a 20-day step-by-step process to understand the power of gratitude. And when I grasped that, I was trying to make things hard. It really made things very simple. And that's been the principle I've shifted my life on, is going to place of gratitude no matter what the circumstances around me are. Yeah. And it's made a difference. So you
remember Bob talking about his favorite song, Johnny Mathis, I Can See Clearly Now? That's what gratitude does. If you're focused on practicing gratitude, you can see clearly. One thing I didn't know that I now do all the time is I'm very grateful for my problems, because it changes your perspective on it. I was doing an interview in Toronto a few weeks back, and the interviewer had read the book. She pulled out a section of the book. She said, let me just read this out loud. There was, I don't know, about 100 people in the room, and I'm just going to paraphrase, but it basically talks about how I had searched out, I hired a private investigator to find the man that had sexually abused me. So it was 4 men. There was a bunch of boys in this ring, and his name was Randy. And I sought him out. I wanted to meet him, and I just wanted to hug him and help him. I wanted to find out what happened to him that caused him to do what he did to me, because he must have had a story. I could have become an abuser, being, a victim. I could have become a villain, And so she was reading that part. She was, how do you do that? Like, how do you take that viewpoint on this terrible story? I said, it was a choice. I understood, from Bob, when you talk about the laws, I understood that the law of opposites, or polarity, that there has to be good in something bad. So I could spend the rest of my life as I had, with a victim mentality, looking at the bad, or I could look for the good. So when I started looking for the good, I found it. And then it changed my whole perception on the story. That's part of what I do in this book. And you don't have to even go through, a situation like I have. You could just be struggling in your life for whatever reason. You probably have a mistaken identity in parts of your life. Doesn't matter what it is, but I just trying to change your perception on your past. That's your only problem, is you have a perception about your past, and it runs your judgment and your decision making. And so through gratitude, you can look at anything, bad or good, and you can benefit from that. I think, I think gratitude is very powerful. I didn't know that you could look at your problems as being grateful for that. But when I did, I go, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, with regards to the book, what else are you doing to help facilitate this book? what are you doing as far as your business, how people can
Yeah.
reach out to you, work with them? How do you work with people that may want to reach out and start changing their perception of themselves?
Yeah, so a few different ways. So I generally, most people approach me and say, "Listen, first thing you got to do is you got to read the book. Read the book it's a very short book. Spend a week reading the book, and then go back and then just go through chapters 31 through 30, either one day at a time or every couple of days, no more than every 3 days, because it's only a 5-minute read. And then I get you to get your pen out and I ask you some very direct questions. And I really encourage you, just pretend you're having a conversation with me. It's worded that way. And I'm just answer my question directly. Don't make up some story. Just answer my questions. So I would do that. And then I also have a way you can go through the book with me. And so through my website, you can go there and you'll see I've formulated lessons with the book. So you can go through the book with me. And so every day, if you're going to read the chapter, watch the lesson, and then take the action steps. So the video is only 5 minutes. And then you can get on a live call with me and I'll help you as you're going through the book and answer questions and those kinds of things. And then I also have I created an environment called mymentoringcenter.com. I want to create a place where people could come to get real advice that works from a trusted authority. And so I do a lot of live calls, just live coaching, group coaching, teaching, and it's very low cost. I just wanted to create a low cost environment where anybody could come. And so you can see that through my website. And then of course, there's always people that come. So Doug, come to me and say, Doug, will I like the way you talk, or I like what you're about, can I work with you and will you mentor me? And so I have 2 levels of mentoring, kind of a semi-private small group platform. And then of course, one-on-one with people just in a kind of exclusive private setting. So, and of course, I'm always looking for people that want to get this book in the hands of others, because I can't reach everybody. And like today, I appreciate being able to come on here and try to reach one person. But anybody who wants to, get behind my mission, which is to, help people break free of their mistaken identity, then I'd love to talk to you about how you can share the book in your part of the world, wherever you are. So those are the different ways.
Wonderful. Now that Bob has transitioned to the other realm that we're all curious about and we will experience at some point in time, that's a guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that and your mission to get this book out there. Do you have a coaching program that you're initiating people on, training them how to facilitate this materials, or is that what you're?
That's coming next. I'm working on that now. Right now, I'm just working with people that want to get the book out, and so they'll hand it out and get people to buy the book. But that's the next phase, is for people that really want to, because this is really, like I said, it's like a program or a course or a system. It's duplicatable, and so next stage is to put people together and teach people how to deliver this, or at least guide people through the book and the exercises. So, and I've got people talking about bringing it into churches and other programs, existing programs, using this as a workbook or a handbook in existing programs. So that's the big picture for sure.
People need we need a lot of people out there like yourself to make a difference in the world.
Definitely.
What I like to do is ask you this question. Knowing your story, meeting you, and seeing all that's gone through and where Bob has influenced you, like he's influenced thousands of people. I don't know how many people he's really influenced worldwide, but I can speak for myself. It really changed my life. I didn't get in it for personal development. Personally, I got into it to help my clients understand their behavior was dictating the results financially.
Right.
And it changed everything. When I was coaching it was behavior before numbers was my tagline. what would you say to people out there that are listening today or will see this on a replay, whatever the case may be? What was the biggest takeaway that you got from Bob Proctor and knowing him at the level that you did? You had that great opportunity not just to be associated with him in learning his materials and teaching those materials, but having that intimate personal relationship, meeting with him as a colleague. What was the greatest thing that you learned from Bob?
Wow. Well, I think for sure the first major part of what I mentioned earlier is that I have the ability to, direct my mind, control it, and direct it, and it dictates how I think, feel, and act. And so, taking control of my story, taking agency over my life, taking control of my thinking, and not allowing other people to influence me or my mistaken identity to keep me stuck. That was a very powerful. But I think the biggest thing for me is calm down, lighten up, relax, be yourself. And probably the biggest one, and I'm the furthest away I've ever been in my life, and I keep distancing myself. Bob just kept saying, "Why would you care what anybody thinks about you? Stop worrying what people think about you." And he said, "Doug," he said, if you stop worrying about what people think about you and stop trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and you focus your attention on other people, if you take your attention off you, you won't find anything wrong with you." And so I just turned my attention to helping other people. And when I stopped, being self-centered and thinking about me and all my problems, that all seemed to fall away and become really not all that important, and then they kind of got minimized and life got easier, So, just stop worrying what people are thinking about you and focus your attention on helping other people, just do good, make them feel good, make them feel important, just spread love.
Yeah. That's it with the ultimate thing. When we can grasp that, internalize it, and live it, it's amazing what happens, how the law will bring to you what you need and continue growing. So, well, Doug, I tell you what, we could talk a lot about all the different things in this book, the different chapters, but I just want to let everybody know that I encourage, if you feel like you're stuck, and I think most people can recognize they're stuck in some area of their life, could be on personal relationships, it could be finances, it could be their business, it could be a whole combination of things, is get this book. And Doug has done a wonderful job of bringing clarity to an issue and giving you some direct direction to take action on. And Doug, I just want to let you know this is a great book, and we'll wish you the best of luck to get this out to as many people as we can. So, want to make sure everybody is tagging and sharing this message out there. We never know if we can influence one person. We've lived our purpose in life. And Doug, I know you're going to be touching countless number of people with your work, and in knowing you personally, working with you when my wife and I, Kathy, were getting trained as consultants. You did a great job in bringing us to an understanding of the foundations, how our subconscious really controls the outcomes in our lives. So just want to compliment you, and I'm grateful to know you, and I'm here to support you any way I can. So
thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Appreciate it a lot.
Well, in closing, before we wrap it up, I tell you what, 45 minutes goes in a hurry, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Parting thought.
Yeah, it's the same parting thoughts on every one of these interviews I do. Is number one is stop trying to fix yourself. Just be yourself. I talk a lot about that in the book. And if you're going to get the book, don't get the book to work on yourself or fix yourself, but let the book work on you. It's designed in a certain way just get the book, read the book, follow my instructions, just let it work on you. We ran an observational trial with a group of about 140 people volunteered that read the book, did the exercise over 30 days, and recorded and reported, the changes and feedback, and it's still coming in. The book really does work. I wanted to write a book that actually worked, not just write a book for you to read. And so just, if you're going to get the book, just let the book work on you, because it really, really works. So that's it.
Wonderful. Well, Doug, I'm absolutely humbled and honored to have you on G-Force. And like I said, I wish you the best on your mission in life and your purpose in life. And with that all said, we'll wrap it all up here. We'll close out with my G-Force little video. And
cool.
we'll be don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.